Hi, I'm Scott and welcome back to my shop. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this hollow form out of some tulip poplar. So keep watching. I got this piece of wood from a tree that got blown down during the storm that we had here recently. This is a piece of tulip poplar, and I guess technically rainbow tulip poplar because of the coloration and staining, right? I don't know how well it's going to come out in the video, right? But you can see over here it's got some purple, a little bit of brownish red, some more brown down here. And if I turn it around, that's kind of what you would expect poplar to look like, right? We got the very light wood underneath, and we got kind of like this greenish wood here, right? So, but it just so happened that this one's just stained, pretty cool. All right. So if you want to see how I turn this, keep watching, and let's get the block of wood up on the lathe. All right. So before I get started, you can see I trimmed this up a little bit. I used a chainsaw to do a lot of the rough cuts, and then took it over to the bandsaw, and then just tried to take away as much wood as I possibly could that I knew was just going to get turned away anyway. But I just wanted to take a look at this color, right? So it's all natural color, and this is just a piece of tulip poplar. So I got the really light wood down here, and you expect the green, but this purple streak running through here is just pretty striking. So I mean, I know it's probably going to fade with time, but at least for now it looks pretty cool. All right, you can see this piece isn't symmetrical, right? And that's fine. I mean, I'm going to wind up turning it symmetrical, so no big deal, right? But to get this to spin on the lathe without making my lathe walk across the floor, I spent some time to try to get it as balanced between the two center points as I possibly could. And you can see I did a fairly decent job. It's not perfect, but you can see it's not really wanting to drop off one way or the other, right? If I put it in a position, it'll really stay there. If it was weighted too heavy on this side, it would want to bring that to the bottom. So spend a little bit of time ahead of time. It just makes your life a little bit easier, right? And we can reposition this as I turn some of the wood away, because it's obviously going to change, as we go. All right, so from this angle, you can see I have it all set, ready to go. You can see I got it so it just barely clears the tool rest here. I'm going to have to adjust this quite a bit in the beginning just to get these corners knocked off. But yeah, let's get turning. All right, here you can see I got, I got wood all the way around what's going to be my tenon. So I'm just going to have to cut in a little shoulder here. And then I should be able to get this into the chuck. Okay, here you see what's going to be my tenon. I'm just going to have to cut this wood away, right? And then this will be my shoulder. I got to put a dovetail on that so I can get it into the chuck. And yeah, just got to turn this blank now so it's mostly round, and then I should be able to then finish up working on this tenon and get it in the chuck. Okay, here you can see I have our tenon all ready to go, right? It's a tenon, got a shoulder, right? I just have to cut a dovetail, and I'm going to do that with this half-inch skew that I've actually, sharpened as a scraper. I've actually taken a burnishing rod. Man, there's dirt everywhere, right? This stuff's just so damp. Taken a burnishing rod and just curled the end of that up just ever so slightly so it cuts better as a scraper. All right? So if you want to see what I'm talking about, I did a video on that a while ago, so you can check out the link that's just popped up on the screen. All right, hopefully you can see it on the camera. I got a slight dovetail now on the tenon. I got my shoulder. The outside of the ring is actually a little bit wider than the inside of the ring. That's just so the outside edge of the shoulder will sit flat on the jaws of the chuck. That'll make it as stable as possible. So now I'm just going to take some of this wood away here that I know is going to go away anyway, just to lighten it up a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it around and get it in the chuck. Alright, so now I have it mounted in the chuck. I really got to kind of decide what kind of shape I want to give this. But once again, this purple staining in this tulip poplar is just amazing. I mean, it really looks like someone just dumped a bunch of ink on it, and it really just traveled through the green. That's just incredible. I have this mostly shaped up how I wanted. I gotta deal with this saw mark. So I can either cut this down and deal with it, or I can blend it in, or maybe a little bit of a combination of both. I kind of like the shape I got going here. Yeah, it's that's just unfortunate. So I'm gonna have to definitely deal with that, right? You can say I flatten the top out a little bit. The opening is going to be too big, or at least too big, or bigger than I want it to be. So maybe I'll just blend this out a little bit and just see how that goes. Alright, I repositioned the camera so you could see the shape that I'm going for here. You can see it's kind of shaped like a big Hershey's Kiss, right? So it's a very traditional shape. I've done pieces like this before, so. But I think it kind of picks up the grain really well. You know, getting this all sanded up once it's dry, I mean, it's gonna, this tulip here, I mean, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the chatoyance I'm getting off of this area here is just pretty cool, right? And there's all kinds of figure in the wood here, right? So that's very, very cool. And of course, I mean, you know, the purple staining. I don't know if that's going to stay or not, but I guess we'll just hope for the best, right? So, looks pretty cool for now. So, going to get my drill chuck on here and going to have to bore this thing out and then get it hollowed. Okay, so here you can see I got a drill chuck in the tailstock here, and I got a Forstner bit extension, and I got a Forstner bit on here, and this is a carbide tooth one because I use it quite a bit. I usually mark a spot on this shaft here to my drill to depth, but I just happen to have this piece of tape on here, and this is just about 8 inches at the back end of this piece of tape. So, and that's how deep I got to go. All right, so the vessel right now from top to about where I want to stop is about 8 1/4, and that'll just give me a little bit of wiggle room to play around. All right, let's get to drilling. Okay, so we got the whole thing bored out, and now I got to set up the hollowing rig so we can hollow this piece out. So, magic of video, I got the my hollowing rig set up, and this is the Elbow 2 hollowing rig by Tim Yoder. And no, I am not sponsored by Mr. Yoder, although he's a pretty cool dude. Got to meet him a couple times. But yeah, so my go-to hollowing rig. But anyway, here's my hollowing rig, and here you can see I got a handle out here, and this is the articulating arm. I got a little laser arm, and you know, I got my my John Jordan straight hollowing tool in the Elbow 2 hollowing rig, and that's what I'm going to start with, and I'll eventually move over to a hook tool. Yeah, if you want to see setup and a little review on this tool, hopefully the link will pop up, or like a little button or something up here. I don't know, here. Anyway, will pop up somewhere on the screen so you can check out a video I did on a review on the Elbow 2 hollowing tool. Awesome piece of equipment. This is really kind of boring for the most part. I'm going to rip right through this. All the hollowing occurs inside the vessel, so you really won't be able to see too much about it. Yeah, so let me get to work on here, and we'll come back when I'm done. Alright, so now I got the hook tool on here, and I can really kind of dig in more into hollowing this piece. I can only go in so far with a straight tool before it starts hitting the sides, and yeah, and I did most of the straight tool's job anyway by using a Forstner bit. So, but here we are with the hook tool, and the hook tool will hollow out the majority of this wood here, and yeah, and I got the laser set up, so you know I know where the tip of the tool is, and that's the whole setup just, you know, just awesome. So yeah, check out that the video I did on the Elbow 2, right? And then go give Mr. Yoder a holler and see what kind of deal he can make you on a hollowing rig. All right, so I'm going to get to town hollowing this, and yeah, so sit back and enjoy the music, or fast forward. I really shouldn't say that, right? You know, watch the whole video because it helps me out, right? So, all right, so let me get to work. So you can see with the laser light, right, I know where the tip of the tool is, right? And when the laser actually would fall off the wood, which it won't, and well, here it will, right? Because it's about a 1/4 inch there. Let me just measure that up real quick. So I'm going to keep it about a 1/4 inch, you know? So what are we at? We're just a little over a 1/4 inch, so it's about maybe 3/8 right now. So I'll take a little bit more off. I'll readjust the laser to make this about a 1/4 inch. But yeah, now I have it. It's just about, you know, maybe a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch throughout the whole piece. And so now I'm going to go back and just do some light cuts, final cuts, and finish up the inside. So you can see here what I'm doing is I'm just taking, you know, maybe like 5 passes, you know, getting it to the right depth, you know, the finished thickness of the piece. And then after those 5 passes, I'm just blending in the, you know, those cuts with what I've already done from the top. So I'm working from the top down to the bottom, and I'm doing like 5 or 6 cuts, and then stopping and blending that in, and then I go back in, and I can find where that little drop off is from where I did, you know, the last cut to depth, and then I just start all over again. So then it's like 5 or 6 more cuts, blend it in, 5 or 6 more cuts and blend it in. So I'm going to do that for about 3/4 of the piece, and I'm going to switch up the tool for the straight tool, because it's a little bit easier for that straight tool to handle, you know, the bottom third of the vessel. All right, here you can see I swapped up the hook tool for the straight, and you know, because of the angle, I wouldn't be able to get into this area with the straight tool initially until I cleared out some of that other wood. But now that that wood's gone, and you know, I need to finish about this area here. So right now, the hook tool wouldn't do that very well because of the hook, right? So I'm going to use the straight tool, and you can see I have the laser adjusted, so I'm about a 1/4 inch off the tip. So it'll give me just about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit thicker across the bottom. That's what I'm going for. And then up to the walls will be a 1/4 inch. Okay, so I moved the camera around so you can see that I got the shape all finished. I got it's all hollowed. But here, check out this color. This is just amazing, right? I'm gonna spray it down a little bit with some water just to get this color to pop a little bit. But you can see there's purple and red, obviously the green, there's some brown. I saw some blue in here a little bit mixed in with the purple. That's just pretty cool, but let's see what it's going to look like once we hit it with some finish. All right, that should be like a reasonable estimation of what it'll look like finished. Let me get some water on there. And wow, that's just crazy. All right, I got this piece hollowed out as much as, or I got this piece all hollowed out, and I got it worked as much as I can. I can't sand it, right? It's just, the piece is just too green, too damp, too much moisture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a paper bag, and I'm going to throw it in the corner in my shop. And about a week later, yeah, maybe even less, this will be dry enough at least to sand. Okay, I'll get it all sanded up, and then let it dry for another day or 2 before I put a finish on it. So yeah, so, and really it's just a matter of putting it in the bag. I don't do anything else. I know there's some people that'll put, you know, damp shavings in the bag. It really comes down to the humidity level in your area. Now let me get that in there. If I put damp shavings in the bag with that piece, it'll mold, right? And it'll be just too much moisture, you know. If I don't put it in the paper bag, it'll crack, it'll dry too fast. So you got to find a combination there that works for you, right? So for me, in my shop here where I am now, I usually just have to take, you know, a turned piece that was turned green and put it in a paper bag and just put it aside. So before I moved out here to, you know, our new location here, the, you know, at the old place, I used to have to put the pieces in cardboard boxes and fill them up with shavings and surround the pieces with, you know, shavings. So, you know, every place is a little bit different. It was a lot drier there. It's a lot more damp here. So, yeah, this works for me. I guess you got to work, find out what works for you. You just got to kind of dial it in. And once you know what it is, you know, I mean, it's not really going to change much, right? I mean, it does change season to season, but not all that much. So, all right, so I got it in its paper bag. I'm going to put it in the corner of the shop. And, you know, through the miracle of video, my 1 week will be about, I don't know, a few seconds for you. So we'll see you back in a week. All right, so it's been a little over a week. I had to let this dry out. And you can see we survived the drying process really well, right? We had no cracks or anything, so that's great. And it's dry. I got it sanded down to 400. I sprayed it down with some water to raise the grain. And then just lightly sanded it down with 400 again, just to get that fuzzies off from raising the grain. And here you can see, you know, where we had some red, you know, some brown, some purple. I mean, it's still there. It's faded a bit. It's but it's dry. So once we finish it, hopefully that'll pop a little bit better. And here you can see there's just a typical green and white that you normally would just see in some tulip poplar. So, but yeah, unusual color, coloration on this piece. So, all right. So the next step is to just get it off the chuck and get it onto my tenon removal jig, and we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, here you can see I got my tenon removal jig on the lathe, and it's just really simple. It's just a faceplate with a piece of wood attached, and in my case, this is some holly. And I bored a hole in it big enough to take this threaded rod, and then it's a 3/4 inch threaded rod. So the threaded rod goes into the hole, and it's epoxied in place, okay? And I just used the tailstock to, you know, keep that centered until the epoxy cured, okay? And then I have this stop collar, and it's tight now, so I can't move it, but normally that would just slide back and forth, okay? And then this is just a wedge. It goes in the hole of the hollow form to keep it centered. And this actually sits on the inside of the hollow form on the bottom, so the pressure goes against the bottom of the hollow form on the inside and the bottom of the hollow form on the outside. So that way I'm not putting any undue pressure on the rim, because I really don't want it to split, right? So let me get it set up and it'll make more sense. Okay, so here you can see the tenon of the hollow form, you know, as it's sitting here in a jig, and it's just being held in place by the live center, and the live center is just sitting in the same impression that it left, you know, while it was between centers, okay, and we were forming the tenon. So, I mean, that lines up that really well, right? It's really important that the inside bottom, right, of this piece is, you know, relatively flat, right? Because that that little wooden cushion bumper needs to sit opposite of the live center, okay? So it needs to be, you know, mostly flat. All right, I'm gonna switch the camera angle so you can see how this all works on the other side. Okay, so now we're looking at the other side, and you'll be able to see this wedge and how this works, right? So this is just gonna slide. And you know, because of a little bit of movement in the wood while it was drying, this is not gonna actually sit perfectly flat and center, right? And for, you know, this all to work, right, we're gonna want this to run as true as possible. So what we're gonna do is just use this cone, okay, to just force, okay, this end to be as centered as it possibly can be, okay? And that's all we're gonna do, just push that cone right in that hole. So, and then the next step is just to lock that cone in place, and that's why we have this little metal stop collar, right? It's got a set screw on it. So we're just gonna use this little wrench and just tighten that up just enough to hold it in place, all right? And now there's gonna be a little bit of wobble because the piece definitely has moved a little bit, but you're gonna see that's gonna run fairly true, all right? And that'll really help us turn off the tenon. All right, so I got the piece on the tenon removal jig, and I got my tool rest in place, and that's actually probably just a hair too high. All right, so we're just gonna switch the lathe on and get the speed up, and then we're just gonna start blending this bottom in okay? And I have to decide how big I want this foot to be, or if I want no foot at all. And I usually like to put a little, just a hair of a foot on the piece, because then when it's sitting on that little foot, if you can't see it from its normal viewing angle, it kind of looks like it's hovering above the surface it's sitting on. So I kind of like that. So that's probably what I'm going to do. But right now I'm going to have to blend most of this away. So let's get the lathe on and get cutting. Okay, you can see there I was trying to blend this in. I had a little bit of a line here from, you know, when I first turned it, and I'm trying to just like, you know, over here you can see I blended this, and I'll be able to sand all this nice and even. But because it's moved a little bit, you know, some of the areas just aren't as nice as I'd like. So I got to still blend this out, this hard line here, and then I'll see if I can't sand it up a little bit. All right, so that's not so bad, right? I mean, it's, you know, I got a little bit of tear out in the, you know, here, but that'll go away. And this probably could use some smoothing out. But once again, I think that might sand up pretty nice. So the next thing really is just to decide how big I want this foot to be. And I like them on these type of hollow forms. I like them to be, you know, fairly small. So yeah, let's get to work on that. Okay, so you can see I've taken this down pretty far, and this is, you know, maybe about like 2 inches across for this foot, which proportionally seems about right to me. I also sharpened my gouge and you know, just did a little bit of shear scraping and scraped away most of the tear out that was you know, here from when we first started. So this is about going to be the size of my foot, and then I'm just going to cut this concave, okay, just so it'll sit on the outside edge. And then when I sand it, it'll round these corners over nice and everything. So, and then I'll just have to whittle away this little, this nub. So, but yeah, so let's get that done and then and get it sanded up. Okay, we got done with the 400, and you can see that all blended in real nice. I mean, you know, no more ridges or anything, you know, from the turning. And yeah, everything looks good. So, you know, at this point, spray it down again a little bit with some water, you know, and raise the grain here. And when it dries, just hit it with a 400, and then we can take the little nub off. Okay, so we're back, and it's time to take this nub off, and man, my saw's all clogged up with wood. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take this little pull saw, and I'm going to start cutting this nub off. All right, and this obviously will not take long at all. All right, I'm just going to rotate it and just go around. All right. And then this way I only have like a little teeny bit to take off with the spoon carving knife. Okay, so here you can see I got that little nub removed, and I whittled that away with the spoon carving knife. And here, let me throw that in the frame so you can see what that looks like, right? It's the spoon carving knife. All right. So after I whittled that all the way, just some sandpaper, you know, work through the grits, 120, right back up to 400. and you get a nice smooth bottom. I did it by hand. You can do it with sanding discs and a power sander. You just do whatever, you know, works for you. So next step is to throw a couple coats of lacquer on it. And I'm just going to use some spray lacquer. Okay, well there you go. That's how I turned this piece to some tulip poplar. After I got done sanding it down, right, I sprayed on some spray lacquer and I let that set up overnight, and I kind of smoothed that all off because it, you know, it had some orange peel and a little bit of nubbiness on it, right? You know what I mean? Just didn't feel smooth. So I knocked that all off with some 600 grit sandpaper. Right, and then just gave another shot of spray lacquer on top. And here's the finish. Came out pretty good. The colors will probably still fade away. I don't think there's anything I can do to stop that other than to keep it out of UV light as much as possible. So this piece is going back to the people who had that tree fall down on their property. So it's just going to be a gift to them. I hope they like it. But yeah, there you go. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button, please subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like. All that stuff really helps the YouTube algorithm and will help me out and get more people to see this video. So that'd be awesome if you could do that. And so that's it for this one. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time in Scott's Mini Woodshop. Have a great day.